subscribe. Tariq Radio. Like and subscribe.
Johnny Utah, you in here?
Hey, how's it going,
Oh,
Tariq?
good. You one of these Nick Fuentes fans?
Oh yeah, I love
There
him.
you go. So yeah, I guess you might be a suspected white supremacist. With respect. I say that with respect. So what's on your mind?
Yeah, I guess I wanted to challenge you. I'm about to go work out, so I thought I'd try to hop on. On the idea of foundational Black Americans and their how you say it's a lineage thing, because I mean, doesn't your genetic lineage go back to sub-Saharan Africa?
Well, everybody's lineage goes to Africa.
Well, I disagree with that, but as
Oh,
far
no.
as in the
Okay,
temporal,
where did people come from? Where did Europeans come from?
well, when you're talking about, I mean, if you want to talk about genetics, we can, but
Okay.
when you're talking about Eurasian people and sub-Saharan Africans, like 22% of the sub-Saharan African race, their genetics is not, there's not a common ancestor. So we came from different places. We don't know how far back it goes, but yeah, there's a difference there.
So why are in all of the places around the world, even Asia, and I've been to some of these places in the far off regions of Asia, the Aboriginal people were all black-skinned people with woolly hair, all of them.
Well, race is not just skin color. I mean, like I'm German, but if I stay out in the sun for a time, it's going to change my skin complexion. So there's a difference between just skin color and race. It goes much deeper.
But now I'm talking, well, we're looking at race in modern terms because in ancient terms, people didn't really look at race like that. But now we're using the modern lens. When you go look at the Aboriginal people, they would be classified as Negroid all over the world. In Asia, the Grimaldi in Europe, the
That's because when we are talking about like old school, like people with different ethnicities would be called different races. But back then there wasn't a genetic profile like 300 years ago. And so when we're talking about genetics haplogroups, there's definite distinctions.
right.
But that's not going back hundreds of thousands of years. I'm talking about like your genetic lineage,
Mm-hmm.
like it goes back to sub-Saharan Africans
Mm-hmm.
and the
So
different,
it does. And if you look at the DNA of a foundational Black American, some will be in Africa. A large percentage would be in Europe. There's a lot of foundational Black Americans with European DNA. I got like 20% some damn European DNA. And then you have some with indigenous DNA here in the Americas. But
well, they would be mixed though.
yeah, but we had an ethnogenesis because we became a whole different group. So yeah, where your genetics comes from on 23andMe.
That's not all Americans though that are black, that are quote unquote black. Not all Black Americans have European admixture. Most of them don't.
Actually, they do. We've been.
They
What do you mean we don't? Okay.
most of the people that are in America that come from slavery that exist to this day. I'm not talking about Black people that came obviously after 1965.
Right.
They don't, there's a small, I think it's something like 31%. I have to double check, but something around 70% of that Black population, they don't have European DNA.
Who told you that?
That's the facts.
That's not true.
Well, okay, you can just disagree with genetic reality.
During slavery, do you know how the white supremacist males were?
That is called atrocity propaganda, sir.
What?
That is atrocity propaganda.
What? They were creating whole new races of people with the rapings. Octoroons, mulattoes, quadroons, Creole. Where do you think those people come from?
People of different races and different times in the American experience would get together. It wasn't.
It wasn't?
That's a pathological antisocial thing that's not common in any race of people.
What?
You do understand that, right? It's extremely rare among all human beings.
Sir.
So saying that people
what?
Or go ahead.
If you were enslaved and forced to have sex with the enslaver, what's that called?
Black people were not always enslaved in America. That's also not true.
What?
You think all black people that came to America
Oh,
were
but
slaves?
we were enslaved. There was a large slave population.
Of course there was, but they weren't all slaves, dude. But you're going off the rails here.
What are you talking about, sir?
Tariq, your lineage goes back to
Hold
sub-Saharan Africa.
on.
That's the main point.
Yeah, and here too, and Europe. Our lineage comes from different places, but we still had an ethnogenesis here.
There is no sub-Saharan Africans were not in any genetic profile in Europe, dude. They might have visited there. They did not originate from Europe.
There were, okay, first of all, that's not what I'm talking about, but there were sub-Saharan Africans in Europe called the Moors.
Those are not sub-Saharan Africans. Those are Arabs. Those are Arabs,
No,
dude.
they're not.
Yes, you can look at their haplogroups. They have a complete separate haplogroups from sub-Saharan Africans.
They didn't, because the original military arm of the Moors, when they went into Europe in 711, they came from the area now known as Senegal to the area now known as Morocco, over the Straits of Gibraltar into Spain.
The Moors were not sub-Saharan
From
Africans.
sub-Saharan Africa, which they say, truth be told, there is no such thing as a sub-Saharan African.
Of course there is. Of course there. You can see it in the haplogroups, Tariq.
Those haplogroups don't determine phenotype all the time, and that's just mumbo jumbo to a certain degree.
A phenotype is more okay,
Hold
dude.
on.
Your haplogroup is your genetic profile. That genetic profile can be in the sun longer, which is going to change. It's going to have a different. You might have a tan. That doesn't mean Moors are sub-Saharan Africans.
Yeah, they are, sir. They are. They're black. They're black.
Okay.
I don't even use the term sub-Saharan. The word Moor, means black. Okay? Sub-Saharan African, that's a white supremacist term. All right? Because there's black people all over the place.
The word white supremacy is a nonsensical term.
That's the term your community created, sir.
No, it's a nonsense. No, it's a term that people that hate Europeans created.
No, the white supremacists created that term.
It's a nonsensical term because.
Slow down. I want to hear more about these that didn't happen. What? We ain't gonna skip past that. So these didn't happen during slavery. What are you saying?
It's like the atrocity propaganda of lynchings. Most of the lynchings were
because you're jumping. Are you trolling? Are you trolling, sir?
Well, you're not answering the question. It's atrocity propaganda,
either. So lynchings didn't happen, Johnny. Johnny, unmute your mic, sir. It might be a double mute. You can't talk over me. Just slow down. You don't have to be in a rush. If you say something, just stand on it. Because you say something, and then when I ask you to elaborate, you run to another subject.
No, we're talking about, do you want to talk about atrocity propaganda?
So you're saying that the lynchings didn't happen?
No, of course they happened, but they were criminals.
Really?
Yes. Do you know how many people were lynched between 1865 and 1965?
That's some might not say so. Many of them weren't. But if they were,
do you know how many?
If they were criminals, you put them to jail. You don't invite thousands of white supremacists around to cut their genitals off and sodomize them and disfigure them and burn them and eat them, which is what your family is doing.
So you're saying, okay, all the records. Do you know how many people were lynched from 1865 to 1965?
If a person's a criminal, just put them in jail. You don't disfigure them and dismember their body parts and pass them around and eat them, because your people were eating some of the flesh of these victims of lynching, sir. You don't do barbaric shit like that. You're trying to justify that?
Okay, no. This is atrocity propaganda. Do you know how many
propaganda? Y'all would do it and put it on postcards. You would put it on postcards and send them around the country.
So because you don't want to answer it, it's around 4,500, not just black people. Why
would y'all put them on postcards? You would brag about it and circulated it around the country. Where's the propaganda atrocity? What are you talking?
They were criminals. That's what happened, Tariq.
The white supremacists doing that were criminals, but they got away with it.
Oh, so now you're not allowed to punish criminals. Is that what's
Oh
going
no,
on?
you don't do that. Goes against the Constitution. Dismember.
Lynching? Okay, lynching someone that's convicted of murder.
Yeah. Where in the Constitution does it say string somebody up, hang them, and castrate them and dismember their body parts and pass them around?
So between
No, no,
1865,
no, no. I'm asking you a question. Where in the Constitution speaks against cruel and unusual punishment? So, do you believe in the Constitution or not, sir? Which one is it?
nope, you're defending criminals.
Right?
That's what you're. That's where your morality
No,
is.
no. You're un-American, sir.
So if
All
someone
right,
is a
you're
state,
un-American. Yeah, cruel and unusual punishment goes against the Constitution, sir.
in order to be American, it's outlined in the Constitution. You have to be white.
No,
That's what happened to Tariq.
you have to be white to be an American.
Yes, it's in the Constitution. It's in the 1790 Immigration Act. That's what that means. Your lineage is sub-Saharan
No, I'm
Africa.
a foundational Black American, sir, because you guys could not create a country on your own. You failed when you tried.
Of course we did.
You what?
Of course we
No, you
did.
didn't. Before 60,
Yes, we did. Who wrote the Constitution,
that
Tariq?
that came from that was a carbon copy of the Iroquois Constitution.
No.
You guys didn't have anything going on before 1619,
Okay.
right?
No, we had plenty of going on. We colonized the entire New
No,
World.
you didn't. Not by 1619.
Oh,
No,
we did. We did.
no, you didn't.
So Columbus is not a real
Yeah, he's
person.
a real person. He didn't. He
Okay.
didn't colonize the whole New World yet. They did.
Well,
But
quite a bit of it, and you distributed trade routes. But I want to get back to the
he had
atrocity
black people
propaganda.
with him. He had black sailors with him, and some of those ships were owned by Moors, and they were black. Okay.
But I want to get back to the atrocity propaganda because I think it's important. It's very important. Between 1865 and 1965, not just black people, around 4,500 people were lynched. 2/3 of them were black, roughly, because they committed crimes.
But no,
And so when
that's
you bring up,
well, I have to stop you because you're just doing on white not say so. Many of these people were actually innocent. Many of them did not commit crime. What you're saying is not true. Many of these people were
no,
falsely accused, and they went out there and did that barbaric ass nonsense, and they did criminal acts and they got away with it because they were white. That's what white supremacy was about. It was about torturing black people and being able to get away with it, and then using the "I'm white, not say so" narrative. That's what white supremacy is. White supremacy is based on I can do anything as a white person to a black person, and it's justified. That's called white supremacy, right?
nope, it's just called doing
No, no,
justice.
no. White supremacy.
Yeah.
This is not.
And it's not because I say it. It's not because I say it. It's
No, that's
recorded.
I'm white and I say so. That's what white supremacy is. Just like you said, and people getting was propaganda. All the rapings the white supremacists were doing, that's propaganda.
Where is
The different races of octoroons, mulattoes, and quadroons,
so
that's the rape.
you think because people who a lot of them were forced together by different means, but that's a different story. You think because a man and a woman have relations that it's automatically
If they're enslaved and they can't get away from your ass and you're forcing sex on them, yeah, that's the very definition of rape.
all of history has a story of slavery and all kinds of labor. So you think any power
No,
structure, if any power structure exists,
sir,
those relationships are not authentic.
justifying raping. See, that's how degenerate you white supremacists are, sir. You're sitting here justifying raping. Well,
No, you're saying because
everybody at one time. This is the sick part of white supremacy, sir.
no, you're saying because there's a power dynamic that therefore happen.
Yeah,
That's
that's
not true.
literally, yeah. If you have a slave and you're forcing sex on a slave,
Nobody was forcing any.
yeah, you are. Do you think they wanted to be enslaved? And
Do you think all people in the past of any
do you
power
think
dynamic?
they wanted to be enslaved and okay, let me get some more people in here. Brother Torin, let me get Brother Torin, then I get Great Black Shark in here. I'm gonna have some more people talk. Oh boy, Brother Torin. Brother Torin, are you in here? Okay. Okay. Let me see. Let's get Matcha Man.
Yeah, you had me
Okay,
muted.
my bad. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, yeah. I'm first of all, thanks for tapping me back in here. Um, Second of all, man, I'm actually glad this individual is in here because it's good for the public to see the bullshit that a lot of these white supremacists are trying to sell to people.
Yes.
Because the thing that happens is this. There is documented evidence of everything that you're saying, Tariq, and there's documented evidence of the brutality and the atrocities that white supremacists have inflicted on Native Americans and Black Americans and the occasional white person. The issue here is that when you put this stuff in front of them, they automatically either start lying or they try to deflect away from the conversation or they try to deflect away from the real history of what goes on. That chattel slavery in America, as perpetrated by white supremacists, is one of the most brutal, one of the most dehumanizing, one of the most demonic practices that was ever inflicted on other human beings. And when you talk about this stuff, they don't want to deal with that, so they start jumping from subject to
Right.
subject, and they can't stay on one, and they go from one thing to the other. And instead of saying that this is what happened, they try to say that people were forced together like it was a Hallmark movie. There was rape that was perpetrated on Black women. There was rape that was perpetrated on Black men and
Hmm.
boys. There was rape that was perpetrated because of their culture, because this is something that is ingrained in their culture when it comes to warfare and when it comes to domination, and they don't want to deal with that. And instead of dealing with that, they want to try to sell you this fake ass going with the wind dream. This dude is full of shit, and he doesn't even have any sort of real intellectual grounding to stand on to be able to have this conversation. He's just in here trolling.
Yep. Real talk. Brother Dan, hop on in.
Yeah, what's good, Flex? How you doing? This is ridiculous. See, he comes from that school of white supremacists who aren't actually white supremacists. Like they're not white. Like his leader is a Mexican cosplaying a white man. So this is the type of shit they
Oh
do.
wow.
When he talks about it's horror propaganda, whatever. No, this is actual facts. As a matter of fact, they actually detailed in their journals how they would actually rape people. These are monsters we dealing with, and we didn't even take it back from American slavery. If you go back to the Crusades, see during the Crusades, they told them that their sins were absolved if they went back and took the Holy Land from heathens. Them white folks from those European nations who were under Catholic rule went out there and murdered, killed women, children, and men and babies because their quote unquote sins were unfulfilled. They took that same attitude right over here to the States because they were property. They used the Bible to justify anything they wanted to do. And they said, and these are Supreme Court cases, that these people were viewed as property. So you cannot condemn anybody for they do their own property because they own it. That gave them justification to do all of their rape. Even right now, if you talk to people, black people, foundational black Americans who are a little lighter, if you go back in their history, they will tell you, yeah, no, my family, my grandmother or my aunt or something like that was sexually assaulted by a slave master. This is what they do. Now he knows. I'm sure he knows that. But they have this new thing where they try to write this revisionist history. As a matter of fact, they did it with everybody. I mean, you yourself produced a documentary called Butt
Mhm.
Breaking, the type of shit they were doing over there in the Caribbean. Even to this day now, the Caribbeans hate homosexuality because the type of homosexuality these white men forced on them. Now he said his people was from Germany. This makes no sense because he wouldn't consider a German and a British person the same, even though they're both Scandinavian tribes, because British was populated from mainland Europe. But he understands that difference. When we talk about we are a different lineage than sub-Saharan Africans or Caribbeans or anybody else, all of a sudden they get amnesia about it. But he wouldn't consider himself a Russian, and they right next door to each
Mhm.
other. So they understand this. They just deliberately try to throw us off with these insane talking points. I've never even heard that before. Horror propaganda. That's ridiculous. But I appreciate it, Flex. If they didn't want that to be pushed, they shouldn't have done it and documented it.
Exactly. Thank you so much, brother Dan. All right, Johnny. Johnny.
Yeah, I'm here. You want me to respond to that, or
Yeah. Go ahead.
do you want to make a point? No, it's just there is you cannot just because there's a power dynamic doesn't mean that rape happened, and most of it is atrocity propaganda. As far as the lynchings that you're saying, of course, like innocent people, even to this day, like, and it's a tragedy, will be convicted of something that's not that they didn't do, but that's not what was happening. There was no systemic random white people just going around lynching black people. But when you're talking about brutality, the person that made the point about chattel slavery, like since 1965, since integration started, over 400,000 white people had been murdered by black people. From 1619 all the way until 1965, with Jim Crow and slavery, 73,000 black people were murdered by white people. So where's like, it doesn't even make any sense. You can see in inner cities right now, and it's genetic, the violence and brutality of black people. That is apparently obvious. So it's just what the guy said. Just it doesn't make any sense. We see it right now.
Okay, that's a projection. Okay, what you did is just project that black crime lie. There's no such thing as black crime at all. There's no crime that's basically just pertinent based on blackness at all. That's propaganda. That's a lie. And y'all read these crime stats that are bogus and skewed, and it's taken down by fellow white supremacists. White crimes under the system of white supremacy, and I said this before, white crimes are excused because white people get the presumption of innocence. That's the deal that white supremacy makes. Any interaction you have with a black person, white people will get the excuse of self-defense, they were mentally ill, or it was somehow justified some way. Just like you talked about all of the white people who got together in the thousands to murder black people, you sat here and justified thousands of criminals. You understand? None of those people were written down as criminals, and they're on postcards murdering people. Y'all do that to this very day. Kyle Rittenhouse killed people. He's not written down as a murderer. It was justified. Your murderers and killers are always reframed as victims. That's the sick part of white supremacy. Black people get overly punished, the white supremacists get underpunished. And you commit more crimes, more murders, more and more everything else, but you get a pass under the system of white supremacy. And the sick, degenerate twist is because you get away with the degeneracy and you don't have a filter and nobody reeling you back, you end up turning on each other, which is what we saw with your idol, Charlie Kirk, right?
So what causes the violence in inner cities? What do you think
Let's
causes it?
see. Every negative thing that happens in black society was imposed on us by your white supremacist brethren without any exception. When we get rid of the white supremacists, we'll get rid of the violence and the crime. You orchestrate all of it. It's imposed on us. And thankfully, most of us don't even do it. But the handful of us who do it, it was imposed on us by your community. See, the great thing about foundational Black Americans, sir, we have a balance. For every criminal, we have an icon. For every car thief or murderer, we have honorable people who are revered and loved and respected around the world. This is why we have global icons as foundational Black Americans. You don't have that. Who are the icons in the white supremacist community who's loved and revered globally? Go.
Well, you could Socrates, Plato, but I want you to
If you
answer the question.
stop,
You're jumping to a different. You're going to talk about inner city black violence, and I want.
Did you say Socrates and Plato? Stop it. Those y'all didn't even look at them people as white until y'all didn't even look at them as white. Stop it.
Why is there immense inner city violence? Why is that happening?
I just told you, don't ask me the same question over and over again, sir, if you don't like the answer. That's because you don't like the answer. That's not my problem. You got inner conflict to deal with, sir. The problem,
is it a sociological? Is it
I
poverty?
told you, white supremacy. And white supremacy is a problem in your community. Why do you white supremacists end up turning on each other? You're shooting Charlie Kirk, you're shooting each other, you're shooting up white schools, you're shooting up church.
Charlie Kirk was shot by a homosexual. So that's degeneracy.
And Cecil Rose was a homosexual, and he was a colonizer. And what? So
Martin Luther King was a homosexual, and Malcolm X was also a supposed homosexual.
Who did you say, Martin Luther King?
And Malcolm X,
that's you fantasizing.
But here, I want you to, is it poverty?
See, now you're getting into I'm white and I say so. You're just lying now. So, see, and that's another thing. Collective lying. That's another thing. White supremacy is about collective lying. Y'all start lying like it's nothing. That's a major part of white supremacy. Y'all do things and just lie about it collectively. That's another part of white supremacy, sir. That's the insidious part of it, right?
So is it a poverty? Is it a sociological reason? Why is there this inner city violence going on that's completely out of control?
I've already
You can say poverty. You can say it's poverty if you want.
white supremacy.
It's just white supremacy. What does
Notice
that
it's all
mean? Is a white
notice
supremacy makes
and
a
notice it, because notice you can and you're correctly framing it. Inner city. Black people who don't live in the so-called inner city, we don't commit crime. Black people who do not live in poverty don't commit crimes like that.
Yes,
Oh,
they
they
do.
don't, sir.
Yes, they do. The aberrant behavior,
Oh, you're not
felony,
talking about y'all the rape people on
astronomically
the
high.
white supremacists. You guys are the rapiest people on the planet. Who are you talking about?
Why are the let's look up. Let's do it right now. Then you want to do an experiment? Let's look at the Baltimore per 100,000. Let's do it.
Yeah. Reading off some
Let's
sheet
look
where
at
you don't even get a
per
you don't
100,000 in
rates don't
Memphis.
even
Do you want
document.
to pick Memphis or Baltimore, Tariq?
You get excused. Y'all, yeah,
Oh, it's excused.
these white court systems let off pedophiles and rapists all the time. Y'all get slaps on the wrist. So yeah, reading off some skewed data from your fellow white supremacists who protect you on paper, that ain't saying nothing.
So so if I look up right
Uh-huh.
now, if I Google it and I go Memphis, Baltimore, Detroit, New Orleans, any of those places where there's like an over 80% black population, sub-Saharan African, DNA, genetics, it's going to show an equal amount of per 100,000 with other
It's
groups.
going to show more white people, but then even those are undercounted because a lot of your and your crimes don't even get documented like that, or they get excused, or they get expunged, or you get slaps on the wrist. Google and
Let's see
gets
murders per
probation for
100,000.
Google that.
What's the poorest white state?
Google man gets probation for or man gets no jail time for it's always white. All right.
I'll make a deal. I'll make a deal with you, and I'll let you have the last word. It's
The
your
devil. I don't do deals with the devil, but I'm just Google what I'm saying. Sir.
I believe in God,
No,
so everything's
no,
going to be fine.
no. White supremacists don't. White supremacy is your God. Your God.
So we're discussing the truth right now. We're going to cut through all the nonsense. We're going to just
But slow down. Slow down. We got to have decorum here. We got to have decorum. Now, go back to your heroes. Where
we're not going to jump around, Tariq. We're going to get to
where are your white heroes? Go back because we have a balance, sir.
I want you to pick the poorest
You
white.
define your white heroes that's respected globally. Since black people and in the inner city are so bad, at least we have a balance. We have iconic black people, foundational black Americans who are loved and revered globally. Why are there no people in your community revered globally? That's the question for you. Why do you not have any heroes that's globally revered? Huh? Waiting on you to unmute your mic. It might be a double mute. Unmute yourself if you can. I don't.
So if I give you a couple iconic figures, can we go back to the poverty explanation, sociological
Your white
explanation?
iconic figures who's respected around the world today. Go ahead.
I would say one is from a cultural art standpoint is probably Mozart. That's probably one. Political, probably JFK, who I have some disagreements with, but I think he was worldly respected.
Hey, there's no murals of JFK around. Nobody, no murals of JFK.
I would say.
Go ahead.
I would say too. There's a lot of revisionist history with World War II, but a lot of people, not just white people, all around the world, have a lot of respect for Adolf Hitler.
Oh Lord. Oh.
Yeah.
There you go. That's what I'm saying. Degeneracy. Your heroes are degenerates.
Okay. So I want you to pick the poorest. Hold on. I want you to pick the poorest white state in America.
Okay, so do we really need to go on? I mean, you've already admitted that you're a degenerate. Your heroes are degenerate. Your views are degenerate. So what?
No, my views are based in truth. They're the opposite of degeneracy.
You just bigged up Hitler. Okay, so what else do we need to talk about?
Well, there's a revisionist history there. There's lies, just like a lot of people in history.
So Hitler was a good guy.
Well, Hitler was trying to save the world from a lot of the things that are happening
Okay.
now, including a lot of degeneracy that you talk
Right.
about.
So this is why we got to replace the system of white supremacy with the system of justice. We can't have these degenerates running around here trying to normalize degeneracy. This man sat here, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, Hitler was trying to get rid of transgenderism. Tariq.
Summary: this is a man, a white supremacist man who has justified rape and slavery, justified lynchings of dismantling and dismembering innocent black people. You're bigging up Adolf Hitler. This is the kind of degeneracy that Asian man who called in earlier wants to be a part of. That's what that makes us different. Foundational Black Americans don't want no part of this filth and this degeneracy. That's why we are iconic, because we are inherently against this nonsense. Let me get one more. Let me get my brother Great Black in here. Let me get Great Black in here. Great Black, hop back on, sir.
Ridiculous. But again, I'm going to thank you for having him up here. I'm going to speak beyond him and give the audience some edification, if I may. I'll be very brief, brother. Family, I want you, all of you in here, especially if you're foundational Black American freedmen, I want you to go and get a book called Without Sanctuary. That's going to debunk all that stuff he's talking about atrocity propaganda, because we all know he's lying. But get that book. It should be on every Black household. And I warn you, it's actually very graphic, but it's going to tell the truth. Okay. The next thing I want to say, the reason why white supremacists have this degenerate mindset towards like rape and, sexuality and things like that, I'm pretty sure a lot of you might not have heard of this author, but there's an author called Oscar Wilde, and he had a quote. He said, everything is about sex except sex. Sex is about power. And that's where they justify this degenerate culture. Then if you look in Christopher Columbus's journal, he was doing all kind of raping. Fact is, everywhere they've ever went, that's a part of what they do. The women and children are never safe. If you look at the Russian soldiers that go down to the Congo, it's all kinds of half Congolese Russian babies down there. They raping the Congolese women. They can't stop doing that. Even in the American military, we're going to tell the truth. That's part of the reason why Kim Jong-un feels the way he does about Americans. I'm not justifying the horrible things he does, but that hatred of America, the white folks, is based in some truth. Then we got to move on to this, and I want every Black person to look this up. Brother Flex, I know you already are well astute on what I'm about to say, but when it comes to the Catholic Church, we going there? Look on the little boys. There's a doctrine called Crema Solicitationis. Crema Solicitationis. I want y'all to look that up. This demonic doctrine, basically, to show you that they don't worship Christianity or practice it the same way that we do, this demonic doctrine tells the victims of these Catholic priests that if you say anything, your soul is going to be condemned and you going to hell. And they swear them to take a vow of secrecy on that. You can look all this stuff up. And lastly, I want to say this. When it comes to the Asians, Brother Tariq, I know you remember this as well. Family, I want y'all to look up these names. Raymond Chow, his street name was Shrimp Boy. Look up Peter Chung. They had this Chinese triad organization called Tien Hao Wei. That means the Whole Earth Association. What Peter Chung did, him and Raymond Chow, they was running things over there in Oakland for a long time as far as the drug trade. So what they did was they set this criminal organization up, to go to show you to put this minority myth to bed. They set this criminal organization up from California all the way to New York, linking all the Chinese triad tongues over here. So don't you ever let these people try to lecture us on criminality. With that said, good brother, I'll land. Keep cooking this clown.
Thank you, brother. Oh, goodness. Okay. Johnny. Any last words, Johnny? We're going to wrap it up.
No, I was going to say, you can look up the rape numbers per 100,000. It's much more paramount in the Black community, but
no, it's not. No.
If it's a sociological poverty issue, okay, we disagree. People can look it up. Let the audience decide.
Guys are the biggest rape.
If you look up the poorest white state or the poorest white country in Eastern Europe, look up the murder rates, look up the aberrant behavior, and then compare that to Black people that live in the most prosperous.
Sir. Nobody murders more people than white supremacists, sir. You guys murder people by the millions. What are you talking about? You guys carry out whole genocides. You wipe out whole populations. Nobody's more murderous than white supremacists. Are you insane? That's either true or not true, sir. You can't compare your genocidal, tyrannical raids to a few city blocks in Chicago. It's no comparison, sir. You white supremacists have committed whole genocides of people, wiping folks out by the millions. You even wiped each other out in Europe a few times, right?
Well, I would argue when he was actually trying to help black people, because there is revisionist
Who's
history.
trying?
Obviously,
Well,
Adolf Hitler wanted to create.
he wanted to create what?
He wanted black people. He wanted all people, all races, to have their own nations. He wanted them to have independence. But there was obviously an international financial instrument that was against
Help
him,
black people how?
because he was trying to remove the international stranglehold that is financialization, transnational corporations. We know who they are, that don't want people to have separate nations. They don't want people to identify with their
Before
group.
the Holocaust in Germany, the Germans were in damn Namibia slaughtering the Africans over there. What the hell are you talking about?
The Holocaust, do you know what that was?
They were in Namibia before the Holocaust slaughtering.
Okay, if that's Tariq, if that's true, then what was the
What you,
Havara
if
Agreement?
it's true, they beheaded the people and put their heads in museums.
No, listen,
What are
Tariq,
you talking about? If it happened,
because that group was supporting the international financial people we're talking about. That's why.
that don't make no sense. You just made that up right now.
No, I'm not making it up.
The African people were supporting the international bankers. What are you talking about?
Well, the people that were in power in that country, their their financial support was coming from that international banking
It
system.
was
Dude.
coming from the heads of Germany. So
And why did Adolf Hitler? What was motivated him to seize sovereignty back for the German people?
yeah, that's
Because they didn't have sovereignty.
they were killing African people in Namibia, sir. I don't know what this babbling is about.
So if those African people are betraying their own people, which is what they were
No, they
doing.
weren't.
Oh, they weren't?
No.
Well, who
betraying their own people? And what, you gonna kill them?
No, where were they getting their financial power from? Because it was a world war, Tariq.
So killing a bunch of innocent African tribesmen, because that's what they were doing. They were killing a bunch of innocent African tribesmen.
Different. No, in that African country, it was bifurcated. People that were for nationalism, and then people that were for a global
You're just saying
hierarchy.
stuff. None of what you're saying is
that's literally what happened.
That you're just saying. Yes, I might not say so. What you're saying is literally babble.
So what's the Havara Agreement then?
What you're saying?
What's the Havara? I'm not saying it. What is it?
You just nothing.
What's
You're just saying stuff. You're just saying a
Okay,
bunch of words that don't mean it.
So people, the whole audience can look up what the Havara Agreement is.
You're saying a bunch of words.
And then you're going to say at the same. Hold on, Tariq. Let me finish. You're saying I'm just saying stuff, and I'm saying, well, what was the Havara Agreement?
Okay.
Because if you look up the Havara Agreement, then the whole narrative about.
Good Lord. This is why, ladies and gentlemen, we don't seek approval from these white supremacists. I let this go on to show these are not people to seek approval from. We don't seek approval from this. There's no negotiating with this. I just want y'all to understand the mind of a white supremacist. I just want you to understand the mindset. There's no reasoning with them, no logic with them. They're pathological liars. They keep moving the goalposts. See, some people think he's trolling. No, this is how white supremacy is. This is white supremacy in its purest form. Babbling, I'm white and I say so. They justify all of their atrocities. White is always right. Babble some more. Read skewed stats that other fellow white supremacists compile to justify more white supremacy. Just want to show people how to deal with these folks. You dig? Don't let him control the narrative. That's why he kept trying to dip and dodge and get into different subjects and change the subject. Anytime you start talking about the atrocities they commit, well, what about this? Well, what about that? Well, yeah. So you got to understand how you deal with these white supremacists. They're just not logical whatsoever. It's not about logic, though. White supremacy is about domination. It's never about logic. It's about domination. All right. So that was a lesson for the family here. Let me wrap it up. We've been on for a long time. Respect everybody, man. There's been some deep conversations here. Respect to everybody. The conversation's been very deep. Everybody go to hiddenhistorymuseum.com. 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 Contribute to the Hidden History Museum. Go get your Rootwork deodorant at rootworkstyle.com.